So, hello, parents. I wanted to just make a little video to go over some of the math problems that we had earlier on our review. And I'm not going to work them out necessarily, but I'm going to just give a little prompting to see if it might help fix up some of the issues that some children had on the work. So you can use this video if you need it. I'll go ahead and I'm going to share my screen to get to the slide deck, and then we'll see if we can do some work on it. So let's see right here. So most of us had good luck on this problem. We didn't have too much trouble. This is showing the associative property of addition, and there's a missing number. What we know about equations is that the value on the left must equal the value on the right. So they just needed to look carefully and think about how those numbers were grouped. This question, there's a lot to look at visually. So the students need to read carefully, and it asks about mental math. Here's the big question. Which one of these shows how to break apart the numbers into hundreds, tens, and ones? So if the student was adding 332 plus 154, we have to think, well, which one, how could they break those apart into the place value, each of those numbers? Some students maybe did not read this very last part carefully. So we just want to tune in. This is about being a mature test taker as well. There's only one correct answer on this page. Okay, whenever we're taking a look at this, we did some extra review work on this. In case you haven't used the bar diagram before or the bar model, this works like part, whole. So the total value is here. Each of its parts are below. And in this problem, it says that she subtracts 342 from 456 and gets the answer 114. So they should have that regular equation over here. They could just type it out and think about that. 456 minus 342 equals 114. Well, the question is, put it into this bar diagram, but also what addition equation can she use to check her answer? So that is with the inverse property or the inverse relationships there. We've talked about how we could use an opposite operation to check our work. Here we go. Sorry for the delay. This question actually was, most kids got it, and then some students maybe just needed to look back at one or two of their answers. So on something like this, I would encourage them just isolate each question or each answer there so they can look at it and really think about it and then move to the next. Sometimes the visual presentation is just too much. Let's look here. Most children did very well on this. We had just one or two that had small errors. So you needed to round the number to the nearest hundred. And the way that we think of this, so if we're looking at 668, we think 668 has 6 hundreds already. So should it round to 6 hundreds or should it round up to 7 hundreds? And we have to think about what is at the midpoint, 650. If it's bigger than 650, then of course it rounds up. So that's the strategy to use. Think about how many hundreds. Always look to see what they're rounding to. This question is difficult, and I'm just going to say that we are going to remove it from the test. We practice things like this in mental math in our number talks, but it is more difficult to be able to figure out what's happening when you're looking at the work of someone else. If you'd like to go through that with your student, that will be fine, but for this opportunity, I'm going to take it off of the test. On this one, it's about inverse operations again, and there are actually two answers over here that are correct. So I want I guess maybe only one correct answer if we're saying inverse operations. There are two ways to figure out if the answer is correct, but only one answer that uses an inverse operation. So think about what operation is being used here and think of the inverse or the opposite and figure out each one of these. Look carefully. Consider each one. How would you check your answer? This one was a bit more challenging, maybe just in understanding what the problem is asking, and that's kind of what we face here. So the math is one thing, and then understanding it in a problem is something else. So it's talking about a train and the passengers. So they want to estimate the total number of passengers on both. So we have to, it says down here, compatible numbers. What we know about compatible numbers is that they are friendly numbers, meaning we will use numbers that either end in 0 or in 5 to make them easy to compute with. And everyone's choice of compatible number may not be exactly the same. So we could have varying answers on here about what would work. Now on this side over here, I think students needed to reread the question at the top. Estimate the total number of passengers in 2 ways. Well, we have 3 ways to estimate. 1, we can use compatible numbers. 2, we can round to the nearest 10, or 3, we can round to the nearest 100. So they needed to choose 2 of those methods to use to solve the problem to get the total number of passengers, 1 in each of these answer spaces. Lastly, round to the nearest 10 to estimate the difference. So within this one, I think about this, and we've talked about this. How many tens is in 689? So there are actually 68 tens. So we have to decide, should this round to 68 tens or should it round up to 69 tens? Well, because the 9 is very much closer to the next 10, we would round up. So it would be 69 tens, which would be 690. That's what it would round to. Okay, and then do the same thing for 471. Subtract to find the difference, and then put your answer in the box. There are some other slides on here, but they're just extra slides within the presentation, so you don't have to worry about that. Whenever you take a look at the Pear Deck lesson that is in Google Classroom, I have gone through every student's individual problems and put some sort of feedback on there. Either I've said like, great job, or hey, you need to check something, or think about this. So the students could take a look at those things. If they still need support, I mean it when I say it. Contact me, let me know if I could get on and Zoom with your child tonight, or if you want to spend a little time working with them. And also, I will say this, if some of the phrasing that the text uses to ask these questions sounds new to you, like compatible numbers, that's okay, because it the verbiage that maybe we were taught using it was a little different. And many of these things we say, well, that just comes naturally to me. But what we're doing right now is explicitly trying to teach the students how to work this, teaching them the steps so that they can build in that automatic thinking that you and I have as adults. Anyway, I think the test will be a little bit challenging. Today we had some weak areas in our review, and the Envision format, the testing format, is more challenging. It's just not as kid friendly. So just prepare your kiddo for that. And I will also be talking them through the assessment tomorrow to remind them of different places where they need multiple answers or only one answer, things like that. I hope you have a great night. Thanks for everything that you're doing to support your student and to support me. I appreciate you. Thanks.